addition to that, and you see the power of the tariff. I mean, the tariff is good, and nobody can compete with us because we have by far the biggest piggy bank. And so that'll take place very quickly. But also we'll be doing pharmaceuticals. And to bring our industry back, we want to bring pharmaceuticals back to the country. And the way you bring it back to the country is by putting up a wall, and the wall is a tariff wall. We were the richest country in the world. We were at our richest from 1870 to 1913. That's when we were a tariff country.
Donald Trump spent most of his first administration governing, or at least trying to run the country via tweet. And his latest example of that, his latest outburst on social media may represent the worst executive action he has ever taken, using those tiny little fingers of his, because Donald Trump officially announced that a plan he has been long talking about, long lying about, and long misunderstanding is official. Yes, I am talking about the tariffs, and the backlash has been instantaneous. And not only has it been backlashed against Donald Trump, he actually has screwed MAGA in a way that they couldn't have even imagined with what he just did. And we are going to get into that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into what Donald Trump had to say, I want to hear an update and some in-depth reporting on this tariff plan from Lawrence O'Donnell in a clip right here.
If you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt.
No, you won't. You won't have to pay a tariff. Everyone at the World Economic Forum knows who pays the tariffs, and they all know it's not them. The only people who pay the Trump tariffs, which do indeed end up in the United States Treasury, are the only people who can contribute to the United States Treasury. The people of the United States of America. If Donald Trump puts a tariff on televisions made in China or South Korea, when they arrive at the port of entry of this country, that tariff is not paid by anyone in China or any foreign country. That tariff will be paid literally at the dock by the person or company in the United States who wants that TV. So basically, the way it works is someone from Best Buy is at the dock at the Port of Los Angeles or wherever the TVs come in whatever container ship they come in on. And when those goods come into this country, when the big shipment of TVs made in Asia arrives for Best Buy, Best Buy's person is right there paying the tariff. In this case, it's say a Trump 50% tariff right at the dock, and that tariff is paid by Best Buy directly to the same person who's been at that dock since the start of this country, a customs agent. A customs agent right there at the dock, collecting the money from the American standing there at the dock, who's paying him that money called a tariff. And that customs agent, in effect, then sends that money to the United States Treasury. And the TV that Best Buy was going to sell for $1,000 now costs $1,500 because Best Buy has to make up the money that it just paid for the 50% tariff at the port of entry. When you buy the TV, you'll never see the tariff built into the price of it. You'll just see the $1,500. But if Donald Trump imposes the kind of tariff he's threatening to impose, you will see the prices of televisions at Best Buy go up by at least 50%. Donald Trump's choice of Treasury Secretary said in his confirmation hearing that he doesn't expect the price of imported televisions to go up 50%. Because he expects the television manufacturers in Asia to cut their prices by 50% so that you'll continue to buy their TVs at the same price. A TV manufacturer might be able to do that for a very short period of time if the tariff were, say, 5% or less. So it could be on a very low tariff for a very short time that a foreign manufacturer would lower the price so that the product that you buy, you wouldn't experience the price increase, but the money paid for that tariff would still be paid by that same person, that same American importer at the dock, which is to say, by Americans. The Americans who imported those TVs would pay those tariffs. No foreign country has ever paid 1 penny of tariffs to the United States in the history of tariffs.
We pay the tariffs. This is what VP Harris said on her campaign. This is what Democrats have said as long as Donald Trump has been misunderstanding and throwing the word around. MAGA didn't want to listen, and now I guess they're going to pretend it's patriotic to pay more, even though prices were at the top of their complaints with President Biden and his booming economy. So yeah, MAGA, you're about to feel it. Not only because, and this is going to be funny because prices will go up all across the country, but because this post from Donald Trump led to Canada delivering a very specific action that we're going to check out. But first, let's get into Trump's post. Trump wrote today, I have implemented a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, and a 10% additional tariff on China. This was done through the International Emergency Economic Powers Act because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans, and it is my duty as president to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our borders, and Americans overwhelmingly voted in favor of it. Not true. So Donald Trump decides that it is now a matter of national security for him to pretend that he's all big and tough and puff out his chest by levying these tariffs. And of course, we know that they're actually a tax on consumers. Again, Donald Trump doesn't care about this, but he might start to care about this when he sees what Canada did in response now. Of course, Justin Trudeau. We've seen other Canadian MPs talk about the response that they will have to Donald Trump's tariffs, but the latest version of it is really funny, and I want to check that out. Right here, Canada has said it has a detailed retaliation plan to the U.S. tariffs that will seek to hurt Republican states the most. I don't want to say that it's funny I voted for VP Harris, and I am sure you did as well. Not just because we know Donald Trump is a wannabe fascist, and certainly acting like it now that he said he'd be a dictator on day one, that he should have been barred from running in the first place, that he is the most unqualified person in the history of the country to run it, that he is a horrible person, that his character alone should disqualify him. I have a long list. We don't need to get into it. You sure as act know it. But I also voted for VP Harris because I want people to live in dignity and safety and security. I don't want to see our economy destroyed. I want us to have a stable nation in a stable world. And I know Donald Trump won't do that. But it's kind of funny to me. Although I do feel bad for these people that they're going to have to learn how a tariff works by their grocery bill going up 25%, the cost of buying anything going up 25%. And what I thought was so funny about that Trump tweet is that he keeps saying that the tariffs don't impact the prices. He knows that's wrong. Everybody knows that's not true. But then why aren't the tariffs 80%? Why is it a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, but only 10% on their oil and energy? Is it because you're afraid the gas prices might spike because of your tariff? Because if you are, that's you acknowledging that the tariffs are a ache passed on to consumers. Donald, you love your tariffs. Make it 4,000%. Why not? Let's just have fun with this. Really screw the red states, really go for it. I don't get how anyone can be this shameless. I guess Donald Trump, I guess they should expect this, but everyone's about to learn a real tough lesson about tariffs, including Donald Trump, who when he was confronted about them really struggled.
You promised Americans to try to reduce costs, and so many of the products that would be tariffed when they come into the country, the outgoing country is not paying the tariff. The buyers in the United States pay that, and then That's passed on to consumers in
Right.
most instances.
Sometimes.
How would you expect to have prices come down if you have such a broad plan for tariffs? And what do you say to the voters who want to see you reduce everyday costs?
Well, let me just tell you that I got elected for a lot of reasons. Number one was the border. Number two was inflation, because I had almost no inflation. And yet I charged hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs to countries. And think of it, I had almost no inflation, and I took in $600 billion of money from other countries. And tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success. Cause big success. So we're going to have great success. There could be some temporary short-term disruption, and people will understand that. I had that when I negotiated some of the good deals for the farmers. And unfortunately,
I don't know who it was who said this, but Donald Trump has never executed a fully formed, intelligent policy thought in his entire life. He has never said tariffs. May not be it's a leveraging tool. Maybe there's some economic pressure, the blah blah, like he's never used words that make coherent sense in sentence to talk about like how he's exercising executive power. There's never any of that. It's just, I'm strong, I'm tough. And then like some complaints and some like fumbled words. He's clearly dumb. Let's use the word dumb. I cannot believe it that this is how people are going to learn in the most embarrassing and hurtful fashion, in fact. And one of the best examples of that MAGA learning about the tariff came from FR of the show, Walter Masterson, right here.
Who pays the tariffs?
The Chinese government pays the tariff.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I'm an importer and exporter for 20 years. When a product comes into the US, there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow US law and pay the tariff. I'm an American citizen, an American taxpayer. I pay that tariff to the US government, and that increase in the cost, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
Then what about,
what do you say
our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here?
Tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. For example, you might say, you want to sell us your beans.
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn. But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
Don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government?
And you're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. But what I can absolutely assure you is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us. I am an importer and exporter. I do it for a living.
Okay. Then what's the alternative if at one point in our country's history was tariffs that paid for our economy?
Tariffs don't pay for your economy.
But they did. We didn't have income taxes before.
That was before we had municipal infrastructure.
Correct. My understanding is that the tariff is lopsided to benefit other countries as opposed to ours. The suggestion is just to bring it up to make it equal.
That's why you have free trade agreements, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean that even within the free trade agreement, they are not tariff. If there's one thing you should take away from this extended conversation is you are always paying the tariff.
You know what? I'm not educated in that. Fair enough.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
That's good.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
I wish that's how everyone learned what a tariff is. And like in that style, not their grocery prices spiking, but that's what they wanted. Unfortunately, I guess that's what they wanted. They voted for. Them didn't they? It's a shame, but we're going to call it out every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.